Good morning. Is this working? Let me know in the chat, please, so I'm not talking to myself. If so, we can get started. All right, this is Facebook ads and how to get started. No, we've only got 2 people, so we can probably go through some Q&As a little bit more in depth than usual. But can you tell me quickly what your experience level is with Google Ads and what type of business you're running and what you're hoping to get out of this session, please? I assume that you're all typing. I hope you're typing. If not, I'm just going to jump straight in. All right, so Facebook ads, I'm going to jump into an ad account that I've got here. There are 3 distinct things that you need in order to run ads. First and foremost is a Facebook profile. Obviously, you need to have your profile. So with your profile, you can create a Facebook page, which is for your business, which is going to be associated with your ads. Then obviously you're going to have an ad account, and you're going to have a Facebook pixel. And I'll get to all 3 of those in a minute. E-com sales, okay. And a potter, okay, cool. All right. Right, okay. So essentially those 3 things is what we need to get ads up and running, right? And most people, when you set up a personal profile, you do have access to like a personal ad account, and I would not recommend it. And what I would typically go for is business manager. So if we would go to business.facebook.com, this will actually load up your business manager account, in which we should have access to whatever sort of tools we got access to. So I'm obviously running for a few private clients. We do some Facebook advertising. Sorry, we do some Facebook ads for a few private clients. So I've got a couple of accounts in this one here. But essentially, make sure that you use business.facebook.com when you start running ads. And it means that you might have to transfer your personal ad account, if you've used that in the past, into your business manager account, simply because it's much easier to manage and handle. And yeah, this is really what Facebook wants you to do. All right, so I'm going to jump into a couple of things. So first and foremost, like I said, pages that we have available here. And I've just got my dummy account here, which I use for these sessions. Then the second thing that I've got here is my ad account, which is linked to that page. Once again, this is purely a dummy account used for that session, for this session. And then we have pixels underneath data sources. And the pixel, once again, we've got a pixel here that's associated with that page. So we know when we run ads that this is how Facebook can track things. All right, I'm just going to jump straight into the ads manager here. Where did the button go? There it is. And by the way, ask any questions you have during the session. I will try and stop and answer before you forget. It's usually the easiest way to get things answered during these. Chat. There it is. Cool. Okay, so this is more than boosting posts, right? So typically when people start out with Facebook ads, you can easily click on, you write a post on your page, and then you can say boost to get more people to watch your post, see your post. But essentially, yes, this is quite different from boosting your ad. So when you boost an ad, essentially what Facebook does, it gives you like a watered down, limited functionality feature business manager. So what it means is like they've taken a lot of things away, and they've just have the very, very basic targeting things where they say, right, how old is your demographic? Where do they reside? And are they male or female? And when do you want to show this post to them, right? That's basically the main things that boosting a post will do for you. The problem is you don't have any granular control over really the stuff that we're going to go through in a minute. And I would recommend you can boost posts, right? Like they do work, as in like if your message is right and you get the right people watching your ad, then typically that will actually convert. It's just that we would rather have more granular control over what we actually want to achieve with these things. And it's the same on Instagram as Facebook, yes. Yeah, so obviously Facebook owns Instagram, or Meta owns both platforms, and essentially they work in the same platform here. So when we go in here, I'm going to show you quickly how we would set up a typical campaign. So when we start with the first thing you probably want to see here is you got the campaign tab, then over here you've got an ad set tab, and then you've got an ad tab. So these 3 things are always connected, right? So it starts off at the campaign, and then within your campaign, you'll have your ad set, and within your ad set, you'll have your ad. Now, depending on what you choose at any given stage of these three tabs, some of the features will be disabled or enabled. Well, we start up with a campaign, and I'm going to keep it really simple today. If we hit the new campaign, this is where you can now see, okay, there's a few different objectives that we can go through. Awareness, traffic, engagement, leads, app promotions, and sales. And you'll see that when I mouse over any of these options on the right-hand side, you'll see, hey, this is good for reach or brand awareness, video views, and maybe store location awareness. Traffic, it'll give us the information about this is good for link clicks or landing page views, Messenger, WhatsApp, or phone calls. So every single one of these campaign objectives will show you what sort of the best use of this type of objective is. Now, we're going to go straight for sales because we've got e-com sales in here. So I'm going to go for sales because that's good for conversions, catalog sales, Messenger, and WhatsApp. So if I were to set up a sales campaign, down here, I can create the framework or the structure. And now you can see how it's nested, right? So campaign level, once again, at the very top, then you'll have your ad set within your campaign level. And then within your ad set, you'll have an ad. So we're going to start with very basic, what would we call this? Campaign, we're going to say sales campaign, very basic. And underneath the sales campaign, for now, we're just going to say ad set number 1 and ad number 1. We will change this afterwards. So once we're happy with this, we say, yes, definitely we want to try to get some conversion. So we want to get some sales happening. We're going to hit next. And you'll see now that we've actually jumped into the actual editor side of things. So we're still on the campaign level. As you can see, that's highlighted. And before we jump in anywhere else, like I'm going to go straight through from the top down, basically go through all these features. So the categories, we don't have to do anything with this. This is like a very small percentage of people who actually need to fill this out, but most people don't have to use this, so just leave it blank. Campaign objective, if you made a mistake at the very initial creation, you can always still go in here and edit it, but obviously we know what we're doing, so we're not changing this. All right, now a few options here. If we have a catalog, so we have an online store, like an e-com store, and we have our products listed on, let's say, Shopify. Shopify now has a database or your inventory. We can actually connect Facebook to Shopify to say, hey, can you synchronize all your products that you have with us? And then Facebook knows exactly what's available and what's in stock, out of stock, and pricing and images and descriptions and all that good stuff. So once we would have a catalog set up, you can select off the catalog here. And then you can pick and choose. Yes, Wix should be able to connect to that as well. Yeah. Basically, it works the same way. So Wix will have a database if you sell online through Wix, and then your commerce feed or your product feed will actually be able. You should be able to connect it up to Facebook. All right. So let's say in this case we have a Shopify catalog. I got a couple of catalogs in there, but let's say for the sake of this example, we're not going to use a catalog, because it is a little bit more involved. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna change my objective to traffic. It's a little bit easier for the basic understanding of how this all works. It's a similar objective. I'm just gonna go for traffic. And you see that the actual catalog now has disappeared, right? So if I select sales, I can see the catalog. If I select traffic, that catalog is gone now. So like I said in the beginning, depending on what we choose here, some of the features will be appearing or disappearing. Same thing goes for most of the other ones. If I have an ad, for example, or I want to get some engagement, like it'll give us some different objectives. All right, let's go for traffic. Traffic basically means we're going to get somebody on Facebook, see an ad, click on the link, go to wherever we want to go. Want them to go to, whether that's going to be a homepage, a downloadable page, a product page, whatever that might be. Okay, next section here, campaign spending limit. And essentially what this is like a safeguard, like in case somebody turns on a campaign and forgets to turn it off, it's always a good thing to say, well, let's put a limit in here of like, $500. So what happens is this campaign itself, there's going to be a safeguard, like when it hits $500, it'll stop automatically. You can turn it, well, this is for your entire campaign, right? So this is, if you're going to have this running consistently, you can change that. But whatever you want to do, this is your safeguard. Like this is like, just in case you forget to turn off your campaigns, which I see happen more often than once. But let's say in this case, $500. The next section here is an A/B test. And what it means is an A/B test is essentially we're serving up two different types of ads to the same people. types of people, and we see which ad actually works better. And whilst A/B testing is a great thing to do, it also means that your budget probably has to be doubled, right? So if we're going to run maybe $100 a day or $25 a day on advertising, Facebook is going to suggest, well, if we're going to do A/B testing, I would like you to spend at least $50 because they want to spend the same amount of money on both of those campaigns. Now, I'm going to show you a way to do some A/B testing, but for less. So in this case, I'm going to turn A/B testing off because like we want to keep it at a small budget and we're going to keep it simple. The next section here, Advantage Campaign Budget Plus, or so star icon, everything that has like that little star icon or sparkly thing, whatever they call it, that's basically Facebook's AI. And it means that if you enable some of these things, it means that their system is going to do the heavy lifting for you. They're going to try to find the right conversions. It's just basically a smart type of campaign. So I would always recommend to turn that on, because what it does is if I have multiple ad sets within my campaign, let's say I've got 2 different ad sets, and what happens is my daily campaign budget, which is at the very top, $20 in this case, will get divided between whatever ad sets I have. So if I have 2 ad sets, technically both of them will receive $10 of budget to spend every day. And that's really what it is. But what it also means is that if Facebook decides that, hey, one of these 2 ad sets is likely to perform better than the other one, we're going to actually spend the $20 on that one ad set, and we're going to not give any money to the other ad set. All we do is give Facebook an opportunity to test as they go, and then make a decision which one of these 2 ad sets is basically the best user for your budget. And an ad set is nothing more than targeting. Everybody still with me? Does it all still make sense? How we would just literally go through some of these options and what they do and how they would actually impact your campaign? Yeah, makes sense. Perfect. All right. So let's say $20 a day, and we have the Advantage Campaign Budget on. We don't have A/B testing because if I turn it on, you'll see that my budget, typically what Facebook does, I think it's $100 I would normally set it to. They might change it, but no, just turn that off. Okay, then we have a few options down here. Campaign bid strategy. This gets a little bit tricky if you don't know what you're doing. So I would just keep it at highest volume, which is basically getting the most results for your budget. It means that you're depending on Facebook to figure out what works best. You can always go for, I want to have a cost per result goal. So we can aim for a certain cost per result while maximizing the volume of results, which means like you're telling Facebook, I'm willing to pay up to $20 to get a new lead or a new purchase. Like if you can find me a conversion within $20 or less, then yes, go ahead. If the conversion is going to be more expensive than $20, then no, I'll pass and I don't want to spend the money on this. Some other options here, you can have a bid cap as well, which means you get to set the highest bid you want in any auction, which is sort of similar to cost per result. But yeah, for beginners, I would just say go for highest volume, simply because highest volume is going to let Facebook do the heavy lifting for you. Then ad scheduling, you'll see here that you can't change this because we have actually set this to a daily budget. We can also say a lifetime budget. If we spend this to a lifetime budget, we say, okay, over the duration of the entire campaign, whether that's going to be a week, a month, whatever you want to sort of run this at, I don't want to spend more than, in this case, $700. So let's say we're going to run 7 days and $100 a day. What the lifetime budget does is Facebook looks at, okay, you've given me $700 for the week. Technically, that would be $100 a day. However, if we find more conversions in the first 2 days, we're probably going to spend all that money in the first 2 days, and then you'll have no ads going out for the 5 remaining days. So that's sort of a bit of a flexible opportunity as well. And you'll see here, because we selected lifetime budget, we now have an availability here to run ads on a different type of schedule. So we can say, well, we actually want to run ads on, different types of, maybe not in the weekend, for example. But in this case, we're just going to stick with a daily budget. It's usually the easiest way to just get it done. You see that this has been grayed out again, so I can't use it anymore. Okay, so we're going to do $20 a day. And we're going to do Advantage Campaign Budget, as I just said, and then we're going to go to the next section here because we have basically done everything we need in here. This is now going to be a traffic campaign. All right. Okay, so what happens now when I hit the next button? We actually just jumped into the ad set level here. You can see ad set level here or down here. We basically moved one step down. And here is where we can do a targeting. So we can now say, okay, the conversion location, where do we want to drive our traffic? Yeah. So do we want to send people to a website? Do we have an app? Do we just want to get messenger messages? Do we want to get phone calls or WhatsApp messages? Now, we're going to stick to website in this case, simply because, typically you might have a product that you want to send people to. So let's say you got what did you say you had? You selling, okay, sell cookies online. So let's say you got an ad that looks with a stack of delicious cookies. When people click on it, they should automatically go to your product page that is all about the cookies, and they can buy that straight away from that web page. So performance goals, this is important. So when sending traffic to a website with your ads, you can set a performance goal. And what a performance goal is, basically means that we're telling Facebook, there's a few options here. We can actually say to Facebook, look, I want you to maximize the number of landing page views, which means that they're going to try to show the ads to people that are most likely to view the actual website, so that the entire thing loads. And then we actually know that, hey, they've actually seen the page. Or we can go maximize number of link clicks. Now, link clicks means that somebody can click on a link by accident, and then before the page even loads, they close their app or they click the back button or whatever it might be. But Facebook still counts it as a conversion because they go, well, somebody clicked on a link. That's what you told us to go and find. So I would always go for maximize landing page views, because at least we know that somebody has seen the product. Now, if you still don't get the conversion, it means that, well, whatever the ad was promising probably wasn't fulfilled on that page. So, they might have looked at the ad and go, hey, this looks really good. Then they came to the page, and then it turns out, oh, it's not available in this color, or the price is too much, or shipping will take too long, or whatever it might be. So essentially, landing page views will at least give us the opportunity to make an improvement on our page, because the link clicks is really, that's the cheapest way of getting traffic. This will cost us less, but it's just poor quality traffic in that case. Some other goals we have here: maximize daily unique reach. So they're going to show the ads to as many times as they can to a person per day. So your frequency is what that's called. Or we can have maximized number of impressions. So we're just going to basically spam people. But I would say maximize number of landing page views is my main one that I would go for. And then you can see this is cost per result goal is grayed out, because in the previous step we didn't select that option. We basically said in here this the bid strategy, right? So we went for highest volume, but if I would have cost per result, then in the next step that would actually be enabled. Okay, so scrolling down, a couple of things here. Dynamic creative, which basically means that this is going to be the mini A/B test that I just talked about in the beginning. So instead of doing an A/B test that's going to double our budget, we can do an A/B test within the budget. But what we do, when I turn this on, you'll see here, instead of creating maybe 5 different types of ads yourself, you basically say to Facebook, here's 5 different photos, here's 5 different videos, there's 5 different headlines, 5 different call to actions. And what Facebook does is they have one single ad, but it's dynamic. So every time they serve an ad to somebody, that they'll try a mix of a different photo, different headline, and they basically try to figure out which one of these elements works best. And we see it in the breakdown. We can see afterwards to say, well, hey, the ads have been running okay, and we see that the ad that has the photo of I don't know, the kid sitting on the bench with a box of cookies in his lap, in this case, is getting the most clicks, right? So we understand what creative is actually working best, and then we can refine the next campaign to say, well, we're definitely going to include this photo because it was working really well, and we're going to remove the other photos and maybe replace them to see if we can do another test. So if we turn this on, in the next section on the ad level, we'll actually have a few more options, which you won't see if I turn this off. So let's turn that on. And this makes a lot of sense in terms of spending less time building your ad campaigns and letting Facebook do the heavy lifting, because back in the day when we started, everything had to be done manually. So, we'd have to run 24 different ads. We would literally have to create 24 different ads manually, and your campaign budget optimization wasn't available. So we would actually have to go in ad sets. Like it was a whole whole thing. And nowadays it's much easier to basically run it if you understand how the fundamentals work, which I'm hoping to try and get across today. Okay, budget and scheduling. So we can have an end date here to say, look, we just want to run this for a week maybe. And, the start date is in the past because obviously when I created the campaign, it was 10:15, it's 10:21 right now. So we can just click restart and that'll set the start date basically from today, from this minute. So an end date, which is another additional buffer in terms of, remember in the campaign level, we actually set like a maximum spend, just like don't go past $500. This is a little safeguard to make sure that, hey, if you know that your campaign needs to stop at a certain date because it's a time-based offer, for example, make sure you use this. A couple of other options here. Spend limits, we can use spend limits per ad set. Now, if we have two different ad sets, we can still say, this one ad set here, let's say we got $20 a day on our campaign and we've got two ad sets. So like I said, technically both of them will get $10. But when Facebook discovers that one of those two is performing better, they might spend $20 on ad set number one and nothing on ad set number two. So with the ad set spend limits here, we can say, look, if this is the ad set that actually takes all the $20, like Facebook has been giving it $20, we can say, well, actually, the maximum I want you to spend per day on this is $10. So now what happens is we're forcing Facebook to spend the other $10 with the other ad account. Does that make the ad set? Does that make sense? How we would basically tell Facebook that, okay, I know that you're telling us that $20 a day for this ad set is going to be really good for us. However, we still want to do some testing. So please don't spend more than $10, which is 50% in this case. I'm just going to turn it off. It's basically just a thing that you probably want to start using once you're a little bit more familiar with how this all works. Okay, audience. So the next section here is all about who's going to see our ads, who are we going to get in front of. And you can see here the basic stuff, right? So locations, what's their age, what's their gender. We can have some detailed targeting in here. So we can say, for example, okay, they need to be interested in, if it's cookies, let's see if it says cookies. I'm not sure if cookies is a result. There you go. Yeah. So people who are interested in cookies. there's interest for everyone, right? We can here see that, okay, in Australia, people between 18 and 65 plus, we probably want to change that to maybe, I don't know, at least $30, 30 years old to maybe 60. And we can see here that the estimated audience size we just selected is between 2 and 2.3 million. The baked cookies, if I remove that one, you see that now all of a sudden the estimated audience size has gone up to nearly 10 million. So whilst this demographic obviously is still big enough, and we say, look, anybody who's interested in cookies, we want to get it in front of, we also will reduce the size of the audience that we're trying to get in front of here, which sometimes if you get too small, it's harder for Facebook to try to find new conversions. I would always say have at least 500,000 people or something in an audience that you're running ads against, because that's big enough for Facebook to find, the people within that audience that potentially would be the good types of clients for you. I can go further in here. So if I click on suggestions, because I selected cookie as the first level, you see that all my suggestions here now are based around food. So let's say somebody likes chocolate cake as well, and they need to like chocolate brownies. Every time I select some of these things, the audience typically should get a little bit smaller. I would also say I want to make sure that these people also, I'm going to narrow the audience, and I want to say there needs to be vegetarianism. So they need to be vegetarian, or they need to be interested at least in vegetarianism. You can see that now my audience size has gone down by half. So 1.2 to 1.4 million available. So you can sort of build your audience based on this, right? So that's typically how you would get started if you don't have a client list and you don't have any data in terms of your website. So you might not have the pixel installed that has been tracking anything. So this is typically how you would start with a saved audience. Now, I've already created a couple before this session. So I'm going to remove all of these, and I'm going to basically go in and say, well, I've already got a saved audience. So I'm going to pick a saved audience. And this saved audience here, if I browse on it, you can see here, okay, this is a 167,000 to nearly 200,000 people in Australia, between 35 and 55. Their behavior sort of matches small business owner behavior. And what it means is like this, these are Australian people within this age bracket that potentially are small business owners. Now I said take about 500,000 people, and I'll show you later how that would work. We have multiple ad sets, so let's say 220 plus 220. We nearly have 500,000 people there. So what we do here, this is the audience that we're going to pick and choose. And I would always highlight the way that we've named this, right? So AU 35-55, male, female, small business owners. It's pretty straightforward. So the ad set here, we're going to actually label that, because now we know at a glance, when we log into the ad account, we know exactly what the audiences are, and we know exactly what's performing and what's not performing. So in this case, we're going to go for this audience. And we have dynamic creative turned on. We have an end date, and we have the audience picked. Now we're going to go for placements. So placements here is obviously where does the ad show up, right? So if I go for manual placements, it'll show you all the bits and pieces that Facebook has available for people. So if we go to feeds, for example, so the Facebook feed and the Instagram feed are the biggest ones. They're basically prime real estate. And then you can go down a little bit. So Facebook Marketplace, video feeds, this is what your ad would look like on maybe the Explore page. So there's a lot of options here. And stories and reels, same thing. It'll show you sort of the placement, what it would look like on Facebook stories or Instagram stories, Instagram reels. But it also shows you things like what does it look like on search results. Now the problem is here, typically people kind of don't know what they want to actually get targeted, right? So if you know what you're doing, by all means go manual. But if you kind of go like, well, let's see if Facebook has sorted out for me, use the advantage plus placements. So once again, it's got like the little star icon thing behind it, and it's called advantage. So this is really Facebook trying to convince us that this is what's best for you. So start using this. Now, what happens is what they're going to try and do, they're going to decide every time an ad, they decide that your ad's going to get served to a specific person based on, you know, your bid and the relevancy and that kind of stuff. They're going to say, well, where do we want to place this ad? Is it cost effective to put it on the Facebook homepage feed, or do we actually put it in the right hand column or a marketplace? But like they calculate this within like a nanosecond. And the thing is, this can work pretty well. The only thing I don't like about it is that you also get onto the audience network apps and sites. And this is typically for traffic, simply because this is like, you know, you have an app, for example, a free game on your phone, and the ads that consistently pop up, they might be actually your ads coming up there. Having said that, typically Advantage Plus will save a lot of time, and they're pretty good at making sure the right people get it. The bigger your budgets are, typically the better your placements are going to be. Okay, does that all make sense as far as the ad set, how that would work? This is the targeting. This is who we're getting it in front of. I mean, this is basically what we're trying to optimize for, landing page views. Yeah, that's actually one thing I would add in here. I would say LPV. So we can say this ad set targeting these people, and we're going to go for LPV, which is landing page views. Let me know if that makes sense and if there's any questions on this so far, because you're awfully quiet, both of you. All right, all good. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're going to get jumped into the ad, right? So don't forget, we turned on dynamic creative, so it's going to look slightly different. So we're going to hit next. And you'll see in here now that we are in the ad level. So we skipped the campaign, we went through the ad set, we're in the ad level here. So this is where we choose to create the ad, what's it associated. So in this case, it's associated with this Facebook page, which is the dummy account that I'm using. Instagram account, if that's connected, then it'll actually show up here as well. So essentially, this is where we set up our ads. Now, this has a bunch of options. You see, for example, catalog that we selected with the initial sales purchase. It's been grayed out because we deselected it and we went for traffic. And essentially, if we would have catalog enabled here, it'll ask us, okay, which set of products do you want to highlight? Bunch of different options. But in this case, we're just going to go for basic. Okay, first thing I would do on the right-hand side, you'll see ad preview. So just click that slider on, and this is where our ad preview is going to show up. So we know exactly sort of what it's going to look like once we start building these ads. Then there's a few options here. Manual upload. This is obviously when we have to say to Facebook, here's the copy, here's the creative for these ads, so your photos or your videos. We can then select, do we want to have a single image ad or do you want to have a carousel? And I'm going to show both of you, but I would typically test both of these. So what I'm going to do, add creative. You can add your website in here as well, by the way. So if I put my website in here and you have some photos on there, Facebook will actually crawl the website and come back to say, hey, these are the photos and the images that we found on the website, which we believe might be good for your ads. So that's a nice and easy way. That's a good question, and I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't really do much with Instagram personally. I'm sure that you can save the reels, obviously, and then use them as videos. So you'll have your video URLs here, or you can have the videos of your page. I'm not sure your Instagram account is like, I don't have an Instagram account connected to this one, as you can see. So maybe when I connect it, which I just don't have that done at the moment, but if you can connect it, potentially then, yeah, when you select videos and you go to page, potentially Instagram is going to show up on there as well. Probably give that a go. I don't know the answer to that. All right, then we can select the images here. And you can see here, there's like a little error message that says, hey, you selected carousel and there's no images, so please select a couple of images. So we're going to go with a couple of images. We're going to select that one, maybe, and that one, and maybe that one. So these 3 images we've selected, but you can also say, I want to upload some images that are associated with the account that you might have available. Here's the website. Please go and find media on this website. You might have assets in your media library that are available. Here's your Instagram images, etc., and so forth. So I'm going to select 3 images, and it says here 3 out of 10. So we can have 10 images in total. But let's pick these 3 for simplicity's sake. So now you can see on the right-hand side, the actual preview actually starts populating a little bit, right? And it's still not showing us the main one because it's asking us for a link, like where are we going to send people. So in this case, I'm just going to use this dummy account once again, and I'm going to say, well, the website URL where we actually want to send people to is going to be that. And I'm going to hit enter, and now you can see the preview just populates. Because it's a single image, this is what it would look like. But if I were to say, well, actually, we want to have a carousel, now they're going to use those 3 images, and you can see this looks slightly different. Like people can flick through the carousel, and every ad, like this is basically a single ad with multiple smaller ads within there. And this can work. I would always say test it. Like you'll have an ad that is purely a single image, and you can have the same ad but with a carousel and see which one performs better. That's literally all it is. So I'm going to go for a single image here. And I'm going to say, these are the 3 images, because remember, we're doing dynamic creative. So every time, if I look through advanced preview here, every time I would refresh, maybe I should close that to see if I can, yeah, let's try that. So every time I would refresh one of these, see variations. I can click on see variations, and you can see now, essentially this ad, every time it shows up, it'll come with a different photo, right? And this is what Facebook's going to try and do to figure out which one of these photos is getting the most clicks. So we're going to change some of these other things here. The primary text headline. This is the main headline. And then we can say, this is the second one. And what happens here, you can see in the ad here, this is the main headline. That's literally like your title for your ad. But once again, when we start looking at advanced preview and we want to see some variations, now you can see, okay, this is the second one also shows up. So this is the main headline, but we can also have the very same ad with the same photo, but now it actually has the different headline. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. We basically fill out 5 different pieces of headline, body copy as well. So if I just copy this and I'm going to say, this is our primary text. And then I'm going to say, I want to add another text option, which could be number 2, etc. and so forth. So once again, go through advanced preview and you'll see now that some of these variations will have the different pieces of head copy. This one obviously has a number 2 in it. This one doesn't. So once again, I think that that'll sort of make the point clear. It's a mix and match, and Facebook is going to try and figure out what works best. Description. This is like usually a very short description where you would say, yeah, I know, nearly sold out. Oh, sold out. That's not how we spell that. So nearly sold out. This would be like the little catchy little thing underneath the headline, as you can see there. So this is like a little bit of an additional push that you can give people, right? If you want to get them to buy something. Display link. Oh, where do we go? Display link. I can say, I want to make sure that this is the actual link that shows up when people see the ad. So you can see that just above the headline that actually changed. But I can also say news.com.au, whatever. You can add that in, although Facebook is going to review your ad before it goes live, and they're going to say, well, actually, you're not news.com.au, so what are you trying to pull here? So just put your normal domain name in there. Sometimes you might use you can add like an extra little bit in there so people can see on the ad itself. If we were to look at this on, let's say, desktop, somebody's looking at this, and you can see here, hold on, let me just change that to make it look a little bit better. Yeah. Back into this one. Yeah, you can see that the link itself here also has free delivery in there. So it's just an extra option for you to put like a little bit of a marketing pitch in there, right? To say, we use the description, nearly sold out, but we're also using the URL, which is not essentially the URL they're going to go to. But free delivery, somebody's looking at the ad and go like, oh, that looks good. There's a free delivery and it's almost sold out. And I'm going to click on this ad to see what this is all about. So have a play around with that to see how that would work for you. All right, then call extension. If you want to get phone calls, if there's a phone number associated with your page, then that will show up in here. And essentially what it means is in the ad itself, there's going to be a button that says call now. People can click on that, bang, phone call is getting initiated. All right, call to action. Basically, you can have a couple of call to actions here. You can say, for example, shop now and learn more. Once again, some of these ads will show learn more. Some of these ads will say shop now. And Facebook is going to try to figure out what works best. Does this all make sense so far? How we would basically add all our copy and creative in here and then basically let Facebook do the heavy lifting. Yeah. All right, cool. Okay, then scrolling down a little bit further, there's a couple of things I would do here. So underneath the website URL where we're going to send people, there's a little link that says build a URL parameter. Now, this sounds a bit technical. It's not really though. So there's 2 things you want to do here. If you click on the campaign source and go all the way on the bottom, there's like between the brackets, it says site source name and campaign medium. We select placement. So maybe you take a screenshot of that because what we do here is once somebody clicks on an ad, we can see in our analytics to say, hey, this click came from, in this case, Instagram, or it came from Facebook, because we can see the site source name will tell us. And then the campaign medium is going to show us this ad was shown in the Facebook feed. This ad was shown in the Facebook marketplace, on a story, whatever it might be. So we have some idea of where people are actually finding these things, right? Sorry, there's a Q&A. Can we be able to identify the caller? You mean as in when somebody clicks on the call now button to see to identify them? I don't think you can. No, that would be a privacy breach. So obviously, what you can do is you can have a dedicated phone number, right? So you can have a SIM card and say, look, we know that the only people who get this phone number are people that see the ad because this is the number we use on the ad. So that's probably the easiest way to identify that. If this phone rings on this number, we know that that's going to be somebody who's ringing from our online ad campaigns. Hope that makes sense. Okay, back into this. Oh, we've got a few extra participants. Hello, they must have joined later. Cool. All right, so the UTM code, what we want to make sure of is once we add that in, we want to just click on preview just to make sure that it all loads, right? And you can see on the top here. So we're sending people to this link, but anything after the question mark has been added by Facebook. And we can see site source name, medium, UTM, all these things. Basically, it's just tracking stuff that's going to show in the backend. to say, hey, somebody on Facebook clicked on a reel and this is where they came from. So it's a really good way to just keep track of sort of what's working and what's not. Does that make sense how you would use that? So once again, if I delete both of these things for simplicity's sake, and I'm going to say campaign source at the very bottom is the site source name, and then your campaign medium is going to be placement. I typically don't really bother with campaign names and content, but you can do the same thing there. But yeah, I don't really do any of those because I don't need them. All right. So preview URL worked. So we now know for a fact that link is actually live and working. So sometimes UTM goes right throughout, depending on the setup of your web server and your website system. UTM codes sometimes mean that when somebody clicks on it, the page doesn't actually load. So always make sure you hit preview. All right, cool. Now the big thing here is tracking. You can see that tracking has been currently, there's nothing enabled. I would highly, strongly, urgently suggest do not run any ads without tracking any website events. Yeah, there will be recordings on our YouTube channel, Doreen. All right, so when we select the website events here, we see that there's a pixel associated with this actual account. And I'm going to jump into the pixel in a minute, but essentially do not run ads without this. The way Facebook learns and optimizes and becomes smarter and does more for your campaign is that, let's say we're going to optimize for purchase, in this case for landing page views. And what happens is every time somebody clicks on the landing page or on the link and they do exactly what we want them to do, so the conversion has been added, Facebook says, okay, here's one person, check, and this person did exactly what we needed them to do out of these 500,000 people. Then the next person comes along, does the same thing, click. So Facebook now says, hey, we got 2 people who did the same thing. And slowly but surely, they're going to try and figure out, then they want to have 50 events per week. So 50 people need to actually visit your website through this ad. And now they know, okay, these 50 people, they're going to look at them and say, what do they have in common? Like, what's their, how do these other 500,000 people, the 50 that we have here that have actually done the thing that we wanted them to do, let's go and find people within those 500,000 that are very similar to these 50 people, because the chances are the odds of your ad starting to get more traffic are increasing because Facebook is learning. Now, if you don't have website events and the pixel installed, it means that the pixel is not sending back any data to Facebook. They can't learn. So somebody somewhere clicks on an ad, goes to your landing page view, does exactly what we wanted them to do, but Facebook doesn't register it. They can't see who it is, and they can't see this was a successful conversion. So they're just going to try randomly out of those 500,000 people to show you ads to consistently without actually honing in on the smaller sort of segment within those 500,000 that are more likely to click on your ad. Does it make sense how that tracking is really important? Without tracking, Facebook's flying blind, and they're literally just guessing who they're going to send these ads in front to, and it means that your conversions might just not be as good as they could be. Okay, so the way you set this up, I would recommend just either getting your developer or a person who knows what they're doing to just go to your website and install the pixel tracking code. And I'll show you how to do that. Right. So for now, I'm going to say this is all fine. I'm happy to run this ad. The ad name I would call here is dynamic. You see I've already done it a few times. So dynamic creative single image. If it were to be a carousel, if I select carousel, we just rename that ad to carousel, just as a naming convention. So we know roughly when we look at our analytics to say, okay, this is the ad that was actually responsible for this result. So now when we hit publish on the bottom here, we're happy with all this. We're going to hit publish. And what happens is Facebook is going to be publishing this. Then it's going to go into a processing queue. So their algorithm, their AI is going to check out everything we have in there. So if I select this campaign now, so we just set this up. And you see that it says there's an ad, it's processing. So this is literally going through the queue to make sure that there's no obvious issues with it. Now, the next step here becomes, yeah, it goes into the review queue. So this is like a human who's actually going to quickly look at your ad to make sure, you didn't do anything that bypassed the automatic security system. If they're happy with it, they're just going to say, yes, your ad is allowed to run. So I want to make sure that I'm going to turn this off. A couple of weeks ago, I forgot to turn it off when I did exactly the same thing on a session. And then a few hours later, as Facebook says, hey, your ads are live, congratulations. And that cost me like $11. It's like, okay, that's not what I'm trying to do here. The worst part is it's very similar to this one. The worst part is it was like a really bad ad, and Facebook actually went through the manual review queue and they looked at the ad, which is like literally this one. And I said, yeah, that's fine. We're going to run this ad for you. If you want to, spend your money on us doing these stupid ads, then for sure. Anyway, so this is why I would always say have like a buffer in there, like your campaign budget limit, to make sure that it doesn't creep over. So like Facebook will run the ad if they can. Yeah, I'm just going to turn these off. Traffic campaign, just to make sure that none of them are actually going to charge me. Lesson learned. Now I'm going to show you how to do the testing in here. So obviously we just said that the campaign level, we got $20 a day at the campaign level, and we want to do a bit of A/B testing, right? Now within this ad set, the Australian ad set, we have that single image. What we can do, the single ad. So what we can do, we can go back to ad set. So we can say, look, I want to test this audience against a different audience. So we're going to keep all the copy and creative and all the ads the same, but I want to test two different types of audiences. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to hit duplicate, and it'll basically say, give you a few options here. So just go for the original campaign, which is the campaign we're already in. And then we just want to make one copy. And then if we have this ad up and running, we want to make sure that whatever reactions or comments and stuff will be duplicated. So we're going to hit duplicate, and this will be exactly that. This is a duplicate copy of what we just set up. We're going to make a change here, a single change. Like if you make too many changes in the ad sets, we never know what the actual thing is that made the big difference, right? So if you're going to be testing, I would make one big change, but that's it. Like don't have too many different changes, because things basically will be much harder to sort of figure out what actually was working for you. In this case, I'm going to select a different audience that I built, and this is the exact same type of audience, 35, 55 male female. However, these are people from New Zealand. So obviously the initial ad set is all Australian business owners between that in that age bracket. This audience is New Zealand. And what I do here, I just basically copy this entire section here, because that's going to be our naming convention. I'm going to change that one up there, and we're going to remove copy. Does that make sense what we're doing? So we basically duplicated all the work we just did in one single click. And now we're going to say, well, what the biggest difference is within the campaign, the $20 is going to be split between Australia and New Zealand in this case. Everything else is the same. So we should get a clear picture of which of these two audiences is working better for us. So we're not going to change anything else, and we're just going to hit publish on that one as well. And the good thing is, because the nested hierarchy of campaign, ad set, and ad, because we duplicated the ad set, whatever ads were in there have already been duplicated in here as well. So we can see that if I just refresh that, yeah. So you can see the New Zealand one here. And if I click on the ad set, we're going to go to the ads tab, and you see the exact same ad in here, but now it's New Zealand, right? So if I select both of these ad sets, and I'll go in here, I see both of these ads. So we know that everything else is the same. The only big difference is we're going to start targeting two different types of countries here. Now, I'm going to show you quickly. These will turn off. Yeah, I'm just wary of the time. The actual campaign that was running by accident a few weeks ago, this actually has a bit of data to look at. So this is always interesting. So we can see same type of campaign that we just set up, as like we just set up. We just set traffic campaign. We did the advantage campaign budget, $20 a day, yada, yada, yada. We're going to jump into that one, and we can now see, sorry, hold on, I'm going to go in here. We're going to jump into this one. I'm just going to highlight it blue, and we can see that, hey, we have 3 landing page views. So 3 people at least saw that ad that I accidentally ran, and they clicked on it, and they must have gone like, what the hell is this? Like, this ad made no sense. The landing page is basically saying we're closed. Like, what is this stuff? Worse, like 1,400 people actually saw that ad. So that's quite funny, actually. But what we can do, in the columns up here for the reporting, we can say, well, we want to look at performance and clicks. Clicks is going to be a great indication of how well is this ad performing, right? These numbers are going to show us exactly how well one of these things is doing. So we can see this campaign. We can then see it cost me $3.70 for every time somebody actually did the landing page view. We can see here 1,400 impressions. So this is how many times the ad was actually sent out to someone. CPM, the cost that I'm paying for Facebook. So for every 1,000 impressions, Facebook is going to charge me $7.83. And this number is always dynamic. It depends on how defined your targeting is, what the month is, because, you know, Christmas time, that CPM is going to go up. There's more advertisers, etc. It's a dynamic number that is basically based on the auction. Then we got link clicks. And that's actually interesting. You can see we got 4 link clicks, but we only got 3 landing page views. So somebody actually clicked on the link probably by accident, and then, oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Before the page even loaded, they disappeared. This is why I don't bid for link clicks. It's very, very easy. This is already a 25% increase in terms of clicks that I would basically pay for. So the cost per click here is $2.77. And then click-through rate, this is the main one that I look at. The link click-through rate. So not the click-through rate all, but the link click-through rate, because this tells me the percentage of people that actually saw the ad and then click through. So typically for an ad that I would run to a saved audience, like a cold audience, like somebody who doesn't know who you are, doesn't have any affinity with your brand, we try to aim at least 1%, because at 1%, we know that the ad is somewhat performing. Depending on how much our CPM is, if our CPM is really high, we want to try to increase that click-through rate, because obviously we still want to get the visitors onto the page, etc. But what we look for here, you can see, for example, clicks all. There have been 10 clicks, right? So this wouldn't be link clicks. This could also be somebody tapping on the photo, tapping on the link to the page. Any tap that was registered on the app would have been added here as a click. And you can see my overall click-through rate was 0.7%, but the actual link click-through was only 0.28. So this is going to give a good indication, but this is the campaign level. So if we're going to go into ad set level now, we can now start comparing, right? Now we can start seeing, right, within the actual campaign, the 2 different audiences, New Zealand and Australia. You can see here that, and, you know, obviously I do these in the morning, so chances are New Zealand was still asleep, because I think they're 8 hours behind us in WA. I'm not 100% sure, but I think the reason why Facebook immediately picked Australia over New Zealand, because basically New Zealand got no budget spend whatsoever, is because it was like in the middle of the night over there. And yeah, basically you can see here already that Facebook went over my $10, because remember, we have $20 in the actual campaign. And that means technically both of them should get $10 max. But they, you know, obviously I stopped that campaign when I noticed it. But you can see here it's already gone over to $10. So that we're going to spend easily $20 a day on this campaign. And this is where it becomes interesting, because now we can see, for example, some of these campaigns will show that, hey, my CPM is a lot lower in New Zealand, right? So potentially I should actually just move my budget towards New Zealand, because even though I'm getting less clicks, I spend a lot less money for them as well. So this is going to give you a good indication of where should I be spending my budget, which of these markets is working well for me. Does it all make sense so far? How you would sort of use this as a guideline in terms of, it's not a set and forget. It's not like putting an ad up and hoping for the best, right? It's really about putting a few ads up, comparing a couple of audiences, and then figuring out which one of these is working best, then start focusing on that one, dissecting what really works in that one and replicating it, and then making more tests. And you discard all the stuff that is actually not working for you. Yeah, Rebecca, perfect. Okay, very good. And then we can go into as deep as the ad level as well. So within the ad level, ad level here. Now we can obviously compare both of those ads. So if we select both of those in the ad set, both of our ads are going to show up in here, but there's no data obviously, because we just noticed there was no data in the other one. However, what we can do in here, if I select the single ad that was actually from the, let's say, the winning campaign, now we can say, right, because it was a dynamic creative, we can click on breakdown, and within breakdown, we have a few options. So by dynamic creative element, so we can click on here any of the things that were part of that ad. So the image, the URL, the text, the headline, as you can remember, maybe we can say, right, let's look at the images. So we've got 3 different images, and we can see here every single image got a single landing page view, right? So one person clicked on the photo of the lady eating ice cream, one of them clicked on the flowers, and one of them clicked on the other one. But now we can see a few things here as well. The cost per result. Hold on, somebody raised their hand. Yes, Rebecca, go ahead. So the cost per result here, just ask a question if you want, Rebecca, because we've got a couple of minutes left. It would cost me $2.24 to get that click using this photo, and it would cost me $5.56 if I would use the photo with that click. So even though they all got clicks, one of them is going to be way more expensive than the other one, which will give you an indication of, hey, which creative should actually be running for my ads. Rebecca, did you want to say something? Because I think you raised your hand, but I don't see anything in the Q&A. Just let me know in the chat. Yeah, so this is basically where the numbers kick in, right? This is where you now start looking at, okay, it's not about having cool creative and copy. It's about which actually performs best. And this is how you would really dissect. And if you have larger campaigns, chances are you might have 50 different types of photos in here. And then you have to go, well, this one's getting more clicks. However, it's much more expensive than this one. And if I basically use the same budget for the one that isn't performing as well, I potentially will be able to get more clicks even at a lower price. So this is kind of where you have to do, put your math hat on and figure out what works for you. Okay. The cost per impressions gets determined by, it's an auction. So basically, when you pick 500,000 people in your audience, there's got to be a whole bunch of other advertisers that also want to get in front of the same type of people. And Facebook is going to look at, right, first and foremost, what's your budget? How much do you want to spend? What are you willing to pay per click to get this ad shown, to get your ad shown to that person? So budget plays a role. Then the other thing that plays a role is Facebook is going to look at the relevancy, like how relevant do they believe this ad is for that person that they're maybe going to serve it up? Like what's the expected outcome? So they have a calculation in the back end. At the end of the day, they want to make sure that people get ads that are relevant to them and they don't annoy them. I think they're still figuring it out because we all get ads that annoy us. But essentially, Facebook is trying to have the best user experience for their users. And then they look at all the ads that are available and they're going to pick the one that they believe is going to be the best one for that person at that time. So your CPM depends on who you're bidding up against. Also, the audience size. The smaller your audience becomes, the less people are in there, the more Facebook is focused on, okay, right, we've only got this small audience to play with, so you're going to have to pay more simply because chances are the other advertisers are probably going to outbid you. So CPM really also comes down, if you have an objective in your conversion event is link clicks versus purchases. Link clicks is very cheap, so your CPM is probably going to be a few dollars. If you're going to say to Facebook, look, I want you to get me purchases, so that's the highest value event that you can convert on Facebook, your CPM is going to go up to $20, $30. So that really depends per campaign, but it also depends on what time of year it is. If it's Christmas time, your CPMs are going to go up sky high, but then, come January, February, it's all dynamic. So this is why I would always test with things, right? So even with the ad sets here, we can't see, so we can see the CPM that was calculated here for Australia was $7.83. If we would have had some impressions here on New Zealand, that would have been a number that could have been $4. So even though same ads, same copy, same creative, we're targeting different groups and the CPM is going to be different based on that. No, it is. So $5 a day is probably the rule of thumb where I would say use at least $5 per day for testing, but always make sure that you have a few ads running. So at least have 2 different ads as a bare minimum, because then you have something to benchmark. So you could say, 1 campaign, 1 ad set, and you might have 2 different ads, or you would say 1 campaign, 2 different ad sets with the same ad like we set up. And then you can basically look at the 2 audiences and say, they both get $2.50 basically per day, and then figure out which one of these 2 is working better. And then you can start building on top of that. So it is always worth it as long as you make sure that you look at the numbers and understand how it works. Because if you just throw money at it, it's probably not going to really optimize. The last thing I was going to say, we just ran out of time, unfortunately, the pixel underneath your event manager here, you can jump into your event manager. If you do a daily, budget. So if you do a lifetime, I would just say do a daily budget for 7 days rather than a lifetime budget, because when you do a lifetime, it potentially could burn through your ad spend in the first day. So your pixels here. This is something you can either do yourself, but I would probably say if you have a website developer or even a friend or somebody who knows what they're doing, it's a little bit of code that needs to be added to your website. And essentially all it is, you can install it manually, which is a copy paste thing. Or you can, if you have a website like Wix, I believe, they probably let you do the same thing. So there's a partner integration, which means you can install an app on the back end of that website. And then it sort of automatically tries to connect to your Facebook pixel. So we got Wix. So Wix works. So if you go to Wix on the back end on the apps section, I think it's called, and then just select Facebook pixel, then, or the Facebook sales channel, that will automatically install your pixel for you. All right, we're out of time. I hope that was useful. I know it's a lot of stuff to cover, and we've only got an hour. There are some replays on our YouTube channel as well. I do these every second week, so feel free to jump in. Feel free to reach out to me as well if you have any questions. I hope this was useful, and I also hope you have a wonderful week and might see you in the next one. Thanks so much for showing up, guys, and have a great day.